Um, so yeah, it's they're telling me that they're preparing the live stream or whatever. And presumably we are starting now. So Matt, um, you're here with me today having a little chat about man up life coaching and your experience. This isn't an infomercial, it's just two guys having a casual chat. How long have you been a man up life coaching client?
So it was November 2020. So over 3 years, maybe coming up to three and a half at the moment.
What value is there for someone who has the idea they'd like to do coaching? Like, why would you do this?
To be coached. Uh, well, I mean, there's various aspects in life where I always thought it would be beneficial to have a steer. So someone who was able to provide not only experience from their own uh, life, but also just knowledge in general. So in areas such as relationships, social, career wise, maybe like other pursuits such as fitness or hobbies. So it's like a holistic sort of approach where you could get someone who has a lot of experience and knowledge in this realm, but also could provide you with the tools yourself to be able to coach yourself in the end, essentially.
Okay, so I experienced this when I first joined a gym. I was in New Orleans. I joined the New Orleans Athletic Club. That's how I went from being a person who went to the bar every night to being a person who went to the gym every night. I decided I obviously want to be around people, but I need to be around people with healthier habits and who are going to inform behaviors that will make me um, a better person. I'm sitting in a bar. I'm breathing secondhand smoke. I was smoking at the time. Um, it, it, Long story short, I was in an environment where I was learning to do unhealthy things. So I
Mm.
went to the gym and I recognized, okay, I don't really need a trainer to teach me how to run on a treadmill, but I have no master plan here. I've never really lifted weights. I never really got into all of that. And I was a little bit intimidated by it. So I'm like, what do? You get a coach. So I hired a coach, and the coach would train me. This is squat. This is proper form. This is deadlift. This is proper form. This is, bench press, incline press, shoulder press. This is how you gain muscle. This is how you lose fat. This is the whole calculus of this thing. We're going to do progressive, overload. No, you're not going to come in and have Atlas body in your first week. So just like there, here, I tell the average client, we're going to be doing this for 12 to 24 months, but you might find yourself 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years later still here, just like you might find yourself training with a coach in a gym years later and continuing to not only maintain what you've developed, but to grow. So, how is your experience with Man Up Life coaching analogous in the sense of your personal growth and development thus far?
I think number one is probably the accountability aspect of this. So how me and you, we've had our weekly sessions for those 3.5 years, and it's really kept me in check essentially to be able to achieve the goals and the term. I have the determination to go after what I wanted to. So if I'm trying to learn to be more disciplined and I'm checking in with you, then I feel like I'm moving in the right direction, and I can then get your opinions and see if I'm actually achieving what we've set out for myself. And it just builds up confidence and self reliance, as well as the self esteem aspect. And I think that's where most guys really start out, is with a coach, is knowing whether they're doing the right thing and having that confidence and that the, the respect for themselves, where they follow through on those actions. And working with a coach really underpins all of that.
Do you think that in the time that you've spent here, 2 to 3 years, you notice uh, a before and after. Now, before you answer that, I just want to say, if you go into a BJJ studio day one, you're going to get a white belt. If you're there for a while, maybe you get your blue belt. You know, maybe you get your purple belt, maybe you get your brown belt. And they say that you'll probably spend longer if you really train BJJ. You'll spend longer as a black belt than you
Mm.
will as any of those other belts, because you'll just be training. And yeah, sure, you'll get a stripe or whatever, but it's really less about hitting developmental milestones and really just more about establishing fundamentals and then optimizing,
Mm.
optimizing, optimizing,
Mm.
optimizing. And there's a point at which, whether you like it or not, you find yourself training lower belts, whether it's because you have a direct interest in, you know, coming up with some sort of personal system or pedagogy that you want to practice on somebody else to test yourself as a teacher, or if it's just because you're really good and somebody's low key studying how you're doing what you're doing so that they can do it too. So at the point that you're at now, while I wouldn't say, hey, congratulations, you're a black belt, you have to notice some progression, some before and after. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. And just as you were describing that, I was thinking about, you can make so many analogies with things like this going on this journey, such as like learning to play chess, or you were talking about the progression system in like BJJ, where you see a lot of gains in the beginning. Thing is, you might not understand what those gains are, and you might not have a wider appreciation, that deeper understanding of what you're learning. You can kind of take things at face value a lot of the time, but it's only when you kind of like go further and further into the coaching aspect, and you actually understand why you were taught what you were taught, and what you learn. So I noticed my growth really kind of like crept up on me. I think it used to come in kind of like stages or phases, and it would almost be like uh, gates where it would be a big growth, a big change. They weren't like I expect this is probably common, where you don't notice the small subtle changes, but all of a sudden you will notice the big large ones that come in a wave. And that's what I noticed with me. So for me, a big one was like feeling more comfortable in social settings, because I still have a little bit of it, but like still have that anxiety where I feel a bit more like fight or flight. And what I did was I started practicing being comfortable in social situations, and that really started to become true for me. So it wasn't fake it till you make it. It was just become the better version of yourself. And when I really noticed that, that's when I started to notice a lot of other aspects that you'd instilled in me. And I was
Nope,
able to speak on
that you
that.
instilled in you, that you instilled in you.
Absolutely.
I just gave you the I gave you the ingredients. You were the
You gave
one
me
who
the
cooked it.
tools.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So and then we were talking about the sort of like teaching aspect. It's I think when you get to that point where you can actually inform others and give advice and teach others, that's when you again really learn yourself, and you can kind of like master these aspects, and you never stop learning in this process. You
Yeah,
never
that's
stop
right.
learning if you become a coach yourself. It's the same deal.
And because I really like the BJJ reference, even though I didn't get very far with BJJ until, you know, life got in the way and I had to kind of push pause on that, but I'm interested in getting back to it. Um, but my experience there was similar to my experience in Taekwondo. It was similar to my experience in boxing. Anything that has uh, a linear learning curve that just gets steeper as you go along, there's a point at which you look back, all you're seeing is the top of Mount Everest that you feel like you're never going to get to. But when you actually do look back and you see these little dots down there and they're people who are coming in where you started, you're like, wow, I guess I
Look how
really
far I've come.
look
Yeah.
how far I've come. Right. So I'm going to shift our conversation because I know you and I were just, blah, 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 blah. We'll just go for an hour. But I do want to wrap us up. But the reason that we started the conversation is because I just wanted to, on the fly, start a chat with you about your interest after 3 years in sort of paying it forward by being present with what you've learned, recognizing where you were, recognizing where you are, not 100% certain still where you're going, knowing that you not only want to disseminate the information that you've learned so far in some sort of systematic way to help a bro who maybe wasn't grokking what Dennis or any other coach in my position might be putting down, but also you were one of the most challenging, if we're being honest, new onboards for me, because you did this thing smart guys do, which is instead of just blind trust and doing a trust fall into the programming, you wanted to try to intellectualize everything, and you wanted to read the map and understand it before you were willing to take the journey. And so we're in the lobby having a conversation that sometimes was like a freaking chess match, where I'm trying to get you to just come along with me, and you're saying, but justify it first. And I'm saying it won't make sense until after. This map won't mean anything to you until after you've taken the journey. So earlier in this very chat, you said you basically learned the why of this in hindsight. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm the type of guy, like if I use a callback to when I was learning to drive, and my instructor would say, "Oh, you analytical types, academic types, you really want to question my methods. Just do what I'm telling you to do." And that's true in a lot of aspects when you learn something in life. And it was no different in this, which is I want to understand the whys, which is breaking it down and figuring out why am I doing what you're telling me to do, and then putting a bit of blind faith into what you're saying. That was, that goes against my system, my belief system,
It's
essentially.
not
But
scientific, is it? You're a very
no,
scientific guy. And
yeah,
I'm saying I'd like you to tap into your religious side and just do it because priest Dennis or whatever, I'm a guru and I'm saying do it, and trust me, it'll pan out later. And you're like, that's how people end up in cults. Like, I
yeah.
don't really want to do that. So, but now that you've been indoctrinated and you think the Kool-Aid is delicious and you'd like to share it with other people, what advice would you have for people who are coming in with that level of distrust and attempting to control the process before leaving the lobby?
I think number one, you have to understand that your decision making uh, doesn't need to really impinge upon knowing where you're going or understanding the full, let's say, scope of what's being said. You can trust, you can just put trust in the person you're speaking to, who has a lot of experience in the areas that you've come to learn from, and they know what they're saying, what they're doing. And that can be difficult because you might not know that person well enough. But slowly but surely, what you could do is what I did, which was putting down your arms, put your weapons down, put down your swords, and just listen and learn, and just go with the flow. It's literally just like lying back and letting the river carry you.
Can I stop
And
for a second and just
yeah,
say, looking at your actual face make the movement and those words coming out is giving me a really sense of like fulfillment, because can you remember some of our earlier sessions,
yeah.
especially
I
in the
mean,
dating area?
exactly. I can downplay a lot of that back then, and the reason why is because I'm on this side, you're on that side, and I forget some of the aspects and the things we were talking about. I definitely remember, uh, in a sense, combating stuff you said because I had a worldview, let's say, limiting beliefs, that type of thing, and learning things from other sources that I thought contradict what you're saying. So I was like having a kind of a crisis moment. I was like, so who do I believe? But I know this to be true, and I didn't know it to be true. I assumed it to be true, and then the things that you were saying, which was just essentially just be present and be relaxed and build up your own self-worth and just trust the process. That was hard. That was really difficult to do
Wait,
because
I'm gonna hold on.
have
I
a
know I'm
reference
cutting you
point.
off. Hold on. I know I'm cutting you off, but I don't want you to get past self-worth. You literally just said the magic word. So what we're talking about is you came in, one of the things you thought boxes you thought you needed to check to give you confidence. It's like the Wizard of Oz. If I only had the heart, if I only had the knife, if I only had the brain, right? So you're like, if I only had the confidence to go in there and make jokes with other guys, they're all joking around and I'm the guy getting sand kicked in his face. If I only had the and you had a narrative, I'm that guy. If I only had the confidence to talk to the girl, to make her laugh instead of being the nerdy shy guy or whatever. And I'm sitting there saying, this is crazy because I'm looking at a handsome young man uh who is incredibly intelligent, has the winning freaking British accent, um like has like could be a cult of personality, super smart, witty, funny, big-hearted dude. Like this guy's got all of these, like he's a creative, but he's logical. Like he could just be killing it out there with women, but women like confidence, and he's cock blocking his own freaking shine. So my I had to get the rat to tick the cheese. That's what we do in coaching. So I had to get you from here to here. And the game was, I mean, as our one of our other coaches, Steve, wrote in his latest article that he posted, a conversation between a guy and a coach. In that dialogue, he's trying to drive home that the dude is trying to check boxes in the self-esteem department that evaluate him, based on his productivity, based on his worldly sort of achievements or optics. Whereas in the self worth department, if you work on how you feel about yourself, how comfortable you are, I don't care if I'm liked or not. I just care that I'm likable. And that means that I'm adhering to a standard or a code that checks my moral and ethical boxes. And when you stopped trying to make people like you,
Hmm.
and were more interested in being your version of likable and being discerning about who you found likable or not, without like toot my own horn too much, I was able to help you to move into an environment there where your dating just blew up, using methods that were really literally contrary to what all the gaming coaches were saying.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right or wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
All right. So we're going to shut this down by saying, uh, fun little chat. Just wanted to get you live and talking. Wanted to create some quick content. Have a give a care attitude about how good it is or not, or who's listening or who isn't. But nice dialoguing. If you had any advice, and we're going to try to make it like two to 3 minute little monologue, and then we're going to bail. If you had any advice for anyone, either just coming into Man Up Life coaching or who's been here for a minute but is starting to feel like it's gone flat and isn't exciting anymore, what would your insights be for them?
So I think I'm very big on the idea of just, you can say the words like trust the process, but just understand that everything will work out if you continue with the stuff that we teach, or let's say the programming that we put out there in this coaching realm.
Specifically this
Eventually,
one, Man Up Life
yeah.
coaching, not just
Oh
coaching
yeah,
in general, but the philosophical underpinnings and the protocols that become the somewhat ethereal but ultimately established standard, which we call core programming. Right.
that's right, exactly. Core programming.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you continue doing your job, essentially, as you see results, believing is seeing. So eventually you're going to have this positive feedback loop where you notice more positive results because you're putting in the effort and you're putting in the work, and you have to build up momentum. But eventually you will start noticing these things, and it will then start making you feel like, I'm on the right track, I'm going in the right direction, and this is working for me. And then you can kind of push the envelope a little bit. What else can I do? For me, for example, it was getting out there and being more social. And I'm the most social version of myself that I've ever been. I never even envisioned where I could be. But it was, number one, it was putting the effort in. Then it was practicing being comfortable. Then I was noticing that everything that I validated myself over in a social setting was becoming true. And you can then apply that to many other areas of life. So as long as you keep that discipline high and you put in the work, you will get the results. 100%.
I really like that. I like the believing is seeing as sort of an umbrella to sort of nestle this conversation under. It's coming into Man Up Life Coaching as a culture, having a little bit of reticence about how this all works, attempting to control the process while simultaneously disbelieving that you are personally capable of change, and having to trust your coach to impart to you the importance of something that you don't know as a priority over what you think the coach is supposed to be doing for you. Ultimately surrendering to the process, understanding that believing is seeing, subscribing to the how of this, seeing the results, becoming invigorated and enthusiastic about wanting to push the envelope and see better results, and then getting to a point like you're at now where you're inspired to come out of your, introverted closet and pay it forward by inspiring other bros. Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
Absolutely.
On that note, thanks for doing this. I'm going to hit kill, kill, kill.